All right, so that should be a little bit better. Can you guys hear me better now? So hopefully I don't peak so high. Because I realized I had artificially boosted it because of another thing I was doing. But anyways, they're very advanced. They have what are called factory worlds, and these factory worlds are kind of like ArcCorp. ArcCorp is the closest thing to it, where they have an entire planet that's dedicated to manufacturing, sometimes only one product. And Jian factory worlds are multiple Jian factory worlds. There are multiple of them, but humanity has never seen one. Jian have only commented in their visiting to ArcCorp that it's very similar to factory worlds, and they go, humans are like, what are factory worlds? And the Jian are like, oh, it's where we make all our shit. Can we see one? No. You gotta find it first. That's the thing about the Jians. They're very secretive. They don't tell humanity pretty much anything they don't need to know. So we don't even know how big Jian space is. It could be smaller than human space. But from what we know, it's... what we know is they're very... is the space that we do know about it is small. It's smaller than human space. But that's what we know. We also know that Jian is lost. They lost their homeworld. They were kicked out of their homeworld at some point. Now, the other thing to understand, possibly why all these things exist in the first place, is because of the Karthik. Now, the Karthik could be one of many different things. The leading belief in my mind is, I could break down to three. That they are a subspecies of the Jian, or a separate cousin species of the Jian. You can think of it as in Star Trek, in sci-fi terms, like Star Trek's Vulcans versus the Romulans, cousins, both similar species who, evolve separately. Then they could also be a predator species that existed on Jian and kicked out the Jian when they began to get too powerful and too unified. And the last theory I have is that they are a neighboring species, possibly a species that existed in the same solar system or nearby the solar systems that just conquered the Jian homeworld and kicked them out. I do not believe there's any records that says that the Karthik did conquer Jian. There is no references to that. All we know is that they abandoned their homeworld. And the fact that they're also then fighting generational, 1,000-year-long war against the Karthik, believed, for me, tells me that they probably lost it to the Karthik, because they were pretty fucked up in the Third Age, or the Sixth Age, whatever their most recent age is. So elves versus dark elves. Yeah, elves versus dark elves is another good way of putting it. Romulans versus Vulcans is a way of putting it. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I've been immersing myself in Trek. There's really no real comparison in Star Wars that I can think of. But yeah, those are good ways of putting it. In fact, about the technology question, they are so advanced in terms of the technology that they likely have or can manufacture things faster than humans can. Which is one of the reasons why the traditionalists. I have to look up the parties, but the more conservative party in the UEE, just slipped my mind. They are very are very reluctant to let the Jian operate in human borders, Jian companies, because they feel like they're going to outbid and beat human companies at every angle. A little bit of a piss take comment, but also that idea of not providing more info than needed. Well, maybe. Hey, Sci-Fi, thank you very much for that subscription, man, for 18 months. That sucks, man. I'm sorry. We live in interesting times, unfortunately. So maybe that's for the best. I don't know what you mean by like a piss take comment, but hey, noob. Goes, buddy. Let me talk about the Jian, because I feel like people really misunderstand the Jian. In reality, and this is just my take on things, I think that the Jian only benefit from humanity not being fucked. Because to the Jian, humanity is a threat, but also a potential ally. So if they can get humanity to get over its shit, then they see a potential ally against the Karthik. We also know that they're very paranoid of us reaching out to the Karthik, because we tried it once. Some senators hired a wildcat explorer to jump through Jian gates to try, or jump gates to try to navigate Jian territory and reach the Karthik to make contact with them. And he didn't get too far before the Jian captured him and basically held him, saying he was a spy. And it created a huge incident where the current emperor had to get involved and deal with and negotiate for his release. In 2000. What do you mean by June 2020? Oh yeah, I've seen some clips of it. That's coming out soon, isn't it? Is that a movie, or is that a series? I know the original Dune was a movie, but they also did a series. I guess that was Children of Dune, but. It's going to be a long 3 weeks. I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. So, if any other questions about the Jian or any other pieces of lore? I just wanted to kind of go over the very basics of them, because I think they're the least understood species. Yeah, no problem, Dale. A lot of this stuff isn't in-game yet. A lot of this stuff is just out-of-game resources. The movie, okay. It looks interesting. I gotta remember who was doing. I remember I looked at the director of it, and I was like, "That's good. If someone's gonna be doing a Dune movie, that's the guy you want." So they're more tech advanced than humans. Why trade with us? What do humans bring to the table that Jian can't really already get? That's a good question. That's what a lot of humans are asking. One of the things that humanity does offer is, the thing is that if Jian are technologically advanced, they're not super technologically advanced. They have small edges over us, not a huge leap. And one of the things that humans do very, very well is simplicity. We build ships which are easy to repair and maintain, but are efficient for what they do. Misc specifically has a great working relationships with the Jian because of that. We know that the Jian, for instance, use Misc hull ships, and they build them themselves. The Misc, the Musashi Industrial Starfleet Concern, actually traded the schematics of building hull ships to Jian, and there are Jian factory worlds that produce nothing but hull series, A through E, and actually use them to transport goods around their empire. So likely it's a combination of human ingenuity and human simplicity. Humanity approaches things differently from the Jian, because the Jian live for so long. They live for centuries. Because they live for centuries, they tend to think long term. Because humanity's lived for such short term, they see humanity being much more reckless and much more they're much more calculated, or they're much more quick to doing things. So it may be that the Jian are more advanced because they could live longer, so they had more chances. Like, one scientist could live essentially 4 human lifetimes to try to solve a problem where it would take 4 generations of humans to solve that. So they are more advanced because they could build, design, and mass produce new technologies really quickly. But that also makes it that means that their whole society is slow burn, much slower. They don't have as much urgency to get stuff done. Humans, on the other hand, only have, even in Star Citizen universe, maybe 150 years. to get something done, if they're lucky. Which means that humans are just like, boom, boom, get to it. Let's get this thing done. Let's get it built. Let's get it out. And that means that humans are much more adaptable. We can solve problems quicker, and because we had to. So it may be that our own problem solving and our kind of like that kind of stuff is something that the Jian are interested in. We know that the Jian youth, there's a youth movement that idolizes humanity. Humanity's like bursts of creativity and as well as our bursts of chaos. Yes, the Reliant is built off of Jian technology. Yeah. The Freelancer also uses some Jian technology in its engines. Humans bring pizza. Why are they so against humans contacting the Karthik? Because humanity spent about 200 plus years in a Cold War with the Jian. We first interacted with humanity. When they first interacted with humanity, humans were terrified of them because they were as technologically advanced, if not slightly more technologically advanced. And then shortly after we met with the Jian, we met the Tavaran and then fought a war with the Tavaran that was very devastating for most of the people involved. So you have a devastating war with the Tavaran. You have another species that you met very close to the Tavaran who are cold and standoffish and have massive amounts of technology. So humanity went through this large phase of being incredibly xenophobic and insular, being much more humanity first kind of thing. And it was driven by the Mezzers. So the Mezzer regimes were very much pushing for humans doing human things, fuck the Xenos. And let me put it this way, because the Jian lived for so long, there are Jian who are alive today who were alive when Mezzer the First was alive. I believe the Emperor himself was alive when Ivor Mezzer took power. So they are very distrustful because they've seen humanity slip down into this chaos of xenophobia and paranoia and militarism. So they're afraid and tyranny. So they're very afraid that even though humanity has pulled out of it, to a Jian, it's only 200 years has gone by since the fall of the Mezzers. That's a blink of an eye. I don't even know. I think they're 1,000 years old. They can live up to. So it's not even we're not even out of a teenage years. A Jian that was born in the time, but the day that the Mezzers fell would only be in their essentially teenage years when it comes to their lifespan. So they're very wary of humanity contacting their oldest enemy that was kicking their teeth in for much of the Spirit Wars. So much so that the Jian were the ones who sued for peace and intentionally tried to avoid Karthik space, which is the reason why they ran into humanity. What was I trying to when we found out how the Banur reproduce? I haven't actually looked into that. I'm sure I won't be. I hope they stop selling us alien ships, leave us something alien after release. Oh, I'm sure they will. For sure. There's going to be ships, I'm sure, in Squadron 42 they don't want to sell. It's got to be, they got to be modified for human market, because none of the alien ships that are designed for aliens, humans will be able to really use. Well, Star Helix, the thing about that lore, about the Banur Merchantman, is that the Banur Merchantman is a very efficient design that was built before contact with other species. So it represents the oldest form of Banur technology. It's been updated over the years, obviously, to incorporate the other technology they met, but it's considered important to pass down because Banur Merchantmans are expensive to make. They still make them. They still make them all the time. It's just, if you're a trader and your father had a Banur merchantman and they die and you inherit that merchantman, that's a huge investment you don't have to make. And since they haven't really changed the design in 600 years or whatever, 700 years, there's no point. I mean, they've updated it, but the design itself doesn't change that much. So you don't have to go buy out a new, better model. Oh, Solo, yes. This is Galactic Historian Office Hours. So this is where I talk about Star Citizen lore. So I talk about go into the deep recesses of Star Citizen's backstory, which is in many cases yet to be pushed into the game. You look up the Banner real quick about how they reproduce. Oh yeah, we also Jian is their religion, I believe. It really depends. So if you want one that's pretty versatile, the Aurora is very versatile. It's not very good for combat. You can kit it out to be decent for combat, but it's not a great PvP ship or PvE ship. The Mustang Alpha is much better at combat, and it has some versatility, but it really isn't versatile for the kind of missions you're doing in Star Citizen right now. You have to do combat missions. It's the only way you can't even do delivery missions because there's no way of doing it in the alpha. So I always suggest the Aurora because it's just better at a lot of things. Now there is another starter ship which is going to come out, which was in concept for a while and may come out in the next couple of years, called the 100i. I hope it's being sold at the same level as the Mustang and the Aurora because it's basically more in lines with the Mustang but has an internal cargo bay, so it's pretty cool. Okay, hold on. No. 3.9 is now out. It's not really. 1 hour. 3.9 to 1 hour. How long do you think before there's a Banur porn on Pornhub? Oh, Panda, my sweet summer child, you haven't seen the Jian penis. Yes. It's the Buddha patch. It's going to fix everything. I'm serious. Someone made a Jian sexual device inspired by it. Posted it on Reddit. And I mean, I'm not going to kink shame or anything like that. You do you, boo. And it shows some interesting creativity, but it sucks how the lore loses $5 of CCU value. It does, but I generally don't think that it matters that much. It's out there. Look for it. You can Google it. I can't do it because we're live and YouTube would ban me. But am I playing 3.9 tonight? If it comes out. So far, I haven't seen it come out. But now this is more of a kind of a discussion about lore that I do on Tuesdays. It's usually shorter than my normal gameplay sessions. Someone printed out the Jian language for diplomats guide. Learning it through the quarantine. It's a joke. It's a constant joke that Twitch streamers do. I think it was started from either Sergeant Tickles or Nerd Show and Tell. Basically, we would say anytime someone comes into a stream and asks when's the next patch coming out, we always say 1 hour. No, there's no PT8 patch tonight. Okay. Does it have any thrusters built in? The 100 eyes that you're asking, Dale? Okay, I'll look it up real quick. All right. Rust Society Guide. Okay. All right. Banur culture. Let's bring this bad boy up. Rust Society. Reggie. Want to learn Banur? The Banur Protectorate. All right. This is a good one to look at sometimes. An allied government of independent planet states, each kept running by one or more political bureaucrat sulis, or guilds. On the state level, the bureaucratic sulis handle major organizational tasks, and political sulis grease the wheels. Execute the logistics and stay abreast of the rules. Garbage collection, energy distribution, everything. Yeah. So everything's run by guilds, which are, you have your government guild. It's constantly in flux. If the Protectorate became overly corrupted, the planet-sized states just don't like how they're running things. They might secede or as an act of protest. While planets are capable of surviving on their own, they're usually cut out of treaties if they rebel, which makes trading with other civilizations difficult for them. It's a bit of a headache if you end up totally independent by a new state. God damn, yeah. Know that they have no attachment to the past, yep. They don't remember the location of the original homeworld. That's what's kind of crazy. The Banur don't even know where they're from. Homeworld? You mean here? This is my homeworld. Now, where are you from? Here. No. Where was your species from? Here. Banur doesn't have gendered pronouns. That's cool. So everything is they. Morphology speaking, it makes sense in the Banur's day-to-day life. Gender just doesn't come up. All Banur are capable of either gestating a child with their bodies or copulating with other Banur to produce a child. The biological mechanism that determines who does what carrying can be voluntarily triggered when two Banur come together and decide to mate. Once the deed is done, they revert to their default state. It's easy to see why their language never developed pronouns based on their sex characteristics. So they're similar to, there's some sea creatures that are like that can choose to be male or female depending on the situation. They swing always. You can't remember where they left it. Yeah. Seahorses. Thank you. Seahorses are very similar. Jian or Vanduul. Hey, Nuclear Vanity. Do I think there'll be a rework of the freelancers? No, the freelancers are pretty much good over they are. The Vanduuls are fish. I mean, if you look at their let's look at a picture of Banur so I can show you what I mean. They look very coral-like, or there's some very, very aquatic species. I don't know if they're originated from water or not, but literally board gamer video. This is a French version, but it's all right. So. Do that as well to give you guys some points who are on Twitch. Oh, right. It doesn't show up anymore. There we go. So if you look at the Banur here, you can kind of see their heads, the way that they're positioned with the little slits. I'm sure that this is their nose, or the way, like, where they take in air, and it seems like it's on top of their head. So they might actually they may have been an aquatic species that have developed on land and kept their kind of like almost like a snorkel up on top. And you know, so you mentioned seahorses. I could see seahorse inspiration in terms of how they developed. They may have been inspired by seahorses when they developed the species itself. So they're coming for the greater deal. The most common alien race you're going to encounter is going to be a split between the Banur and the Tavaran. The Tavaran are insanely common. They're a minority species, but you can find them pretty much anywhere in the Empire. And the Banur are also very common, mostly around Banur space, but they're traders, so they go where the money is. Even the coloring is very aquatic, yeah. And I can see them taking inspiration from aquatic species because humans, our eyes have developed with a watery sheen on top because our eyes were actually evolutionarily developed to see underwater. So these are the same kind of eyes. I mean, eyes have developed independently in dozens of different species, but our eyes were originally developed to see underwater, which is why we need water in our eyes, like that kind of like fluid, to be able to see better, because it kind of corrects our vision. When our eyes dry up, we can't see very well, which is why when we're looking through water with our eyes, it seems off because we're literally looking through a refraction through a refraction. No. They're going to keep it with UEC standard. They're not going to have the separate, because it would become too complicated with the currencies. At least at first. I'm sure eventually they'll think of doing something like that where you can get different things. But the thing about the difference between like Jian and the Banur and the Tavaran, for instance, and the Vanduul, we don't know if the Tavaran have currency. We don't know if the Banur even have a centralized currency. They may have, each independent planet could have its own currency. There's no centralization for that. And since the Banur are mostly a barter society, I could see them not needing currency. They just barter with objects and resources. And the Jian may have a centralized currency, but they also might not. They also might be more... the society may be more based off of codependence, so everyone gets taken care of, and the resources are made for people who need them, so you don't really need currency. So it would make sense that human currency, being centralized and standardized and controlled, might be the most common currency in the universe based off of these species. The Tavaran definitely don't have its currency, so we don't know, because the thing about the let me get back to the office report. Why they're so bent. So we don't know why the Vanduul are so aggressive. The most likely case is that they're just a warlike people, a warlike species, and their martial species. Martial traits of the species became their culture. So think the Klingons meet the Mandalorians. But the honor that the Vanduul have is more between each other than it is between them with other people. They're very xenophobic from the sounds of things. They don't like humans. They don't like other species. And they're very speciest. They're very much, we are the best species in the galaxy. And they're honorable amongst each other, but fuck humans. They're not going to be an honorable fight with humans. Humans are below us. We don't even know if the Vanduul have genders. We don't even know how they reproduce. They could be asexual and just poop out eggs everywhere. I don't know. Which would be kind of cool, actually. The idea that all Vanduul are self-impregnating and then just produce eggs, pop out of eggs, and then they're raised by the clan. It would also be a good survival trait for such an aggressive species to be able to like to triple your numbers on your own without having to have another member. So the thing is that the Vanduul, some Vanduul clans have a good relationship with the Banu, and it may be because of trade and intelligence. Remember, not all the Vanduul are the same. The Vanduul live in clan structures, so some of the clans may be less aggressive than others because they don't need to be aggressive, because they're huge, or because they found value in other things. They're not unified. They're very broken up. In fact, I would be afraid of the Vanduul more if they were unified, because their clans are fucking massive. We're exploring the game loop. Steal a Vanduul egg. Vanduul reported to have traded with Banu. Could it be that the Mezzer regime found it convenient to have them be aggressives to humans? It could be. We don't know why the Mezzers didn't just fuck up the Vanduul. It's a good question about why they didn't do that. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we don't know why the Vanduul are attacking. The bleeding theory is that the Vanduul are attacking because the planets and the places that humans had settled were part of Vanduul grazing areas, essentially ancestral lands, and that the Vanduul would come into these systems, consume all of the materials in the system, and then leave, and then wait for several generations and come back. And it could be that they came back to graze and found humans there in the Orion system, and they were just like, cool, more shit to take. And so they started raiding and coming in and pillaging in pieces, and then finally when humans were kicking the shit out of them. Because that's the thing, is like, the war between the Vanduul and humans was very one-sided. Humanity was beating the ever-living fuck out of the Vanduul when they first showed up. And in fact, they could have defeated the main invasion. The fall of Orion may have happened by just happenstance, because the Bengal carrier that was at the center of the fleet guarding the Orion system was called away to deal with an insurrection. So they didn't have a carrier support. And they still almost won. If it wasn't for the kingship that showed up, they would have beaten the Vanduul with their huge fleet. So the reality is that the Vanduul can be beaten, and have been beaten many times. It's a matter of organization and a matter of persistence, because the Vanduul always come back in bigger numbers. They frighten easily, but they come back in bigger numbers. Yes, the Hadesians wiped themselves out. We don't know why or how. Hey, Bob. How you doing, buddy? How advanced are the Vanduul? Less advanced than humanity. They have similar advancements to humanity, but a lot of their stuff is very crude. Do you think the reason the X-12 incident? I think it was radiation. It was either biological or radiation. They actually found out what it was. Look it up real quick. It was in the Garen system. Holy fuck. Engine failure, antimatter radiation. Yeah, it was antimatter radiation. The engines failed and a huge amount of antimatter radiation swept through. Usually, Vanduul ships self-destruct when they're about to be captured, so they have a self-destruct mechanism to blow themselves up. But this one didn't trigger because everyone died too quick. The crew wasn't all dead. Oh, that's interesting. A detachment of the 8th UEE Marine Division boarded the ship and was able to subdue the remaining crew with relative ease. No Vanduul survived for interrogation. Indefatigable. What do you think the lore writers would do if enough players made a concentrated effort to invade Vanduul space? They would definitely put it into lore. Every big organization runs like 3 or 4 throughout the galaxy. Yeah. Do I think they'll put Hadesian stuff to find in game? Oh yeah, there'll be some Hadesian cool shit. I wouldn't doubt that they invent some sort of weapons or some sort of armor that is based off of Hadesian tech. Yeah, Operation Pitchfork. Yeah, Indefatigable. I don't know how to pronounce that. Indefatigable. I don't know. So the kingship has been compared to the UEE Indefatigable class ship, which I believe is a battleship. However, we don't know about. We have never seen an Indefatigable class ship. It's been referenced in lore, but it's about it. It's been referenced as a comparison to the X-12, which was a kingship that they captured. There's a couple of them, but one of them was on Terra. Some of them were on Hades, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it showed up in the Garen system, which is close to Vanduul space, but you'd have to get through. Through Elysium, which has lots and lots of early warning devices. So Luke Parkus, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but part 2 of Jumptown Wars is going to take a little bit longer. I wanted to release it tomorrow, but I'm not done with it. I got back to work because I'm a teacher, so we're doing online classes, and I'm still got a lot of confused and pissed off parents trying to navigate that, and pissed off and confused kids, and so on and so forth, and trying to juggle all that and get into a good rhythm to finish off the year. So I'm getting there, so I'm probably going to get back into like long-term fixing it, getting it done over this next week. So probably the earliest it'll be is next Wednesday. That'll be part 2. It's going to be about 10 to 12 minutes, part 2 is. And then part 3 will be probably anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes. It should be a little bit longer than 5 minutes, if I get it right. Well, yeah, Jumpdown is a good example. CIG has already put something that the players did into lore because it fit well with their narrative. So any kind of major incident or major effort by players will end up in lore if the writers think it's cool enough. Have holes in the system? Haha. No, the theory is that they may have come through an unknown jump point. Yeah, they'll definitely. We already have one Hadesian artifact. I'm trying to see if there's. Yeah. The Banur don't seem too weird. Operation Pitchfork, will I ever see it? Possibly. It'll depend on how long it takes for CIG to get to the point where it would matter. I mean, likely Star Citizen's going to reach beta and not have any Vanduul systems in, so it may be something they have to do after launch. But we'll see. Oop. My bad. My bad. Big bad on my part. Whoopsie. Retweet and spread the love, guys. You get a chance to. This wasn't the eject button. I've done that before. Sadly. All right, let's get through. That's 1 hour so far, so let me give you guys some more ears for this. Yep. I did it again. No, I didn't. Good. $20.35. You know, honestly, I think Star Citizen will probably reach beta sooner than you think, because the big stuff for Star Citizen is the back end. The mechanics themselves, they take time, but I don't think they take nearly as much time as the back end engine work and server meshing and that kind of stuff. That stuff is the hardest part, because not only is it required, is it difficult work, but it's also work that they only have so many people. They don't have a ton of people working on it. That and the AI tech, for instance, are just not very well fleshed out yet. So, but when it comes to gameplay, they got gameplay guys. They know how to make gameplay. They've done it in the past and they've been refining it. But they can't make a lot of gameplay that then they have to scrap and then rebuild, and that takes even more time as well. So. Whew. Also, is there so much things that are in Squadron 42 that is done that we don't know about? That's true. There's probably ships, aliens, AI, weapons that are done that we don't know about. Systems. What do you think of Star Citizen opening Magnus or Pyro to us? I think they're definitely going to open Pyro to us. I think they'll open Magnus shortly after that. But I think it's more likely that they'll do... Here's what I'm thinking in terms of systems. It's going to be Pyro, Nyx, Magnus, Terra, and Odin. Odin and Terra may flip. But Odin's going to only come out when Squadron 42 comes out. So... And I think likely Magnus and Pyro are easier for them to make. Nyx is already done, so that's not too complicated. The development is definitely going to compound itself once I get the core junk done. Yeah, that's hard to part about that. That and the current state of servers tech won't be able to handle everything. That's true. Yeah, they have to work on that. Do you think CIG is going to alter the size of the Pyro system? Currently, it's 17 AU compared to the 5 AU that stands in the system. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the big thing about Pyro that you got to remember is that, you know, there's some systems in the Star Citizen universe that are 109 AU, which is a huge space, but the key is that some of the systems are going to have stations, and if they don't have stations in the right proportion, they'll just change the distance, not the distance, but the speed upon which we travel. They've done it in the past where they've been able to change that around by making things faster but less fuel efficient, slower but more fuel efficient. That kind of comparison. Or in order to get across the system, if you need to go from one planet to another, you need to hop in a ferry, take your ship onto a privateer or a Kraken that's used for transporting ships. We're definitely not going to get salvage. Exploration. The thing about salvage is that we might get sneaky salvage, is what I call it, where all of the wrecks spawn with some of the components, and then you use your multi-tool to cut open the compartments with those parts, and then cut them out of their holes, and then pull them out, and then put them in your cargo bay and sell them. That might be in. Definitely not in the regular take the reclaimer arm, grab it, throw it in the back, chomp, 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 chomp. That's not going to be in for a while. I wouldn't expect CIG to get 3.9 done this Friday. It might take a while. It's underwater in 900 years. Yeah. Other than, well, I'd like to see two systems that are the most interesting to me, other than the Hades system, because the Hades system is a cop-out. I feel like anyone who's not excited about the Hades system isn't paying attention. Is Magnus, because it's Space Detroit, so I'm interested in seeing how they do Space Detroit, because they've got to make it different from Hurston, but they got to use the same tools that they use to make Hurston. So it's got to be junky, but not trash. And the other one I'm interested in seeing is Bremen. Because Bremen is a breadbasket. So seeing what farms look like in the 30th century is very interesting to me. I would like to see how they farm. I don't know if repair is not going to be in. I think repair is going to be in when they need it to function for Squadron 42. They don't like doing too many things at once. There's a couple of things. Here's a couple of things that are throwing salvage under the bus for this right now. Salvage functions with the ability for a ship to be destroyed and saved into code, so you can go back and go to that wreck. In order to do that, you need to have iCache working, which is the inventory system. And in order to make it so that wreck isn't totally destroying the servers, you also need to have server meshing, so that you don't have to, you can store it in memory, but you don't have to have a server controlling where that thing is. They already have the storing in memory part with OCS. The problem is more, the iCache is the big one. So the iCache needs to be in. They also need to have physicalized components. So components that are placed into this system that working, and then you can pull that out. I think that's going to come in before the iCache, and once the iCache comes in, they'll have to work through a lot of bugs before they start doing salvage. And I still think that server meshing is probably not required, but it's probably going to be a big thing so that you don't take performance hits. So those things need to be in place before salvage in a final form can be done. Mining is already in, and they're kind of hacking it, but I think that mining will also change a little bit once they have the iCache and all that kind of stuff running. They call it iCache. I don't know. It's their memory system, essentially things that store all of the information. I thought they were supposed to have that by 4.0. We don't know. They haven't said anything about it other than that they want to get it done this year, and they're pretty certain they're going to get it done by 4.0. That's what we heard at CitizenCon last year. Remember, there's a pandemic going on. So there's probably going to be some delays. How long do you think the components will stay there for pseudo salvage? There's probably not going to be a timer. It's probably just going to be, it'll probably be based on a. Do you mean for my sneaky salvage idea? I think those will just be placed at every wreck, and it'll just be randomized what it has and what it doesn't. So when you get a mission to go find a crew in deep space, and you go find a broken constellation, you can also go through the Connie and see its component slots to see if you can't pull them open and see what's inside. Similar to how like they randomize the cargo that are in those wrecks. I don't think it's going to be player ships unless you are right there to be able to do that. But iCache needs to be in for that one. Evelon is a 2-hour timer for their salvage, so I think it'll be based off the timer. Honestly, in terms of how long it takes for them to despawn, there'll probably be some internal timer for decay. How strong is the advocacy compared to modern day law agencies? What do you mean by strong? Do you mean in terms of force or its capabilities? Because the advocacy isn't a very big organization. I mean, it is a huge organization, but like advocacy law enforcement officers are not huge in number. Neither are agents, which are even less than the officers. But in terms of like their ability to use force, very high. Yeah, the best way of comparing the advocacy is if the U.S. Coast Guard was combined with the FBI, CIA, and NSA, all in one big glorious whole. I'm holding up my game? Yeah. I mean, there's some realities that we need to accept that CIG is in a better position than most companies, but there's going to be delays. And there's going to be some stuff that's going to slip because of this. This may put back Star Citizen several months, if not a year. And I think that having that expectation and understanding that there are literally people dying, and I'd rather CIG not die, people in CIG not die and stay alive and stay safe, than get 3.9 out the door. And 4.0 out the door, in fact, that. When do you think data mining and data transport will come into the game? I think it'll be coming sooner than you think, because I think they can probably do it with some tweaks, because all that data is cargo, but stored in a drive. So all they need is the ability to take like those current little slots as cargo and then put them, be able to slot them into, places, or to be able to store them safely. So I think iCache is a big thing. When iCache comes in, there's going to be a lot of shit that opens up. Server meshing, I don't think server meshing is going to be as big as many people think. I think they'll do everything they can to increase player count without server meshing, and I think server meshing will increase player count for sure, but they've got a lot of other stuff they got to get done in order to increase that. So yeah, I would say the advocacy is, they're a mix between, they're also very much like kind of a Wild West frontier kind of justice. Every advocacy agent is, there are usually one assigned per system. Sometimes there are multiples, but advocacy agents are incredibly lenient in terms of their guidelines. Their job is to enforce the law. And if people try to stop them, they are authorized to kill them within their own discretion. Advocacy agents are incredibly freeform, as opposed to modern agencies, which have a very, very strict don't kill them because we want them to go through the justice system. Ain't no justice system really for the advocacy. If you're being chased by the advocacy, you put any struggle whatsoever, they'll just kill you. U.S. Marshals Wild West. Think of it kind of like that. That's good. Guns and glue. I ask myself that question every night. I don't know why. Just open up an Amazon store and work through the Amazon distributors because they can do it. They have good working relationship with Amazon. Judge Dredd. Yeah, Judge Dredd is another way of looking at it because that's more of a cyberpunk kind of thing. And a lot of it is based off of what lore we've talked about in lore, but we also know that we've seen an advocacy agent in the vertical slice of Squadron 42. Trejo, Agent Trejo. She is, as you can see in the mission, you free her, and she's like, "Cool, we're stopping slavers." And your character calls in to the old man and be like, "Okay, she wants to stop traders," and the old man's like, "Okay, that's fine, but remember, it's your op. She's got to listen to you this time." So she's like, "Cool, lead the way." But she's like, instantly gets released from her cuffs after being beat half to death, grabs a pistol and is like, "I'm gonna murder some people." Like, that's kind of how agents work. The best agents are zealots of the law and of law and order, and have almost no restrictions on their abilities. A lot of agents were former Marines, former Special Forces, because they have to be able to track and take down targets. Basically, let me put it this way: agents aren't called out to deal with home disputes. Agents are called out when people need to die. TM already mentioned. No idea, Minor. He probably has someone who does the day-to-day operations. He uses CEO title. I'm not a big fan of knowing that he also gets into the trenches and does code work. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's really noble of him." Like that's fine. But a CEO is a very specific role that's designed to keep the big macro stuff running. But if there's someone else who works essentially as the CEO for the company, that's fine. Yeah, it's called. They have a license, the license to kill. It's called Ghost. Would you like to see a similar show to YouTube about galaxies? They did one for Pyro. You mean about for systems? Yeah, they did a lot of them. I think they did almost all the systems for Hitchhiker's Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's a separate decision though. Like, I don't know the logistics behind CIG right now. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how their corporate business structure is structured. I don't know who's making the decisions of CEO. Is it Chris? Is it somebody else? There could very well be. He could be a CEO in name only. Because we know he's the head of the board. He actually has controlling interest in the company. So, do I think electronic warfare will be introduced when the Star Runner comes out? No, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got data running when the Star Runner comes out, because the Star Runner isn't really an electronic warfare ship as much as it's a data running ship. That could also be a hint that CIG is looking to do data running in 4.1, and the reason they haven't roadmap is because they have no idea if they can do it in 4.1, but they know they can get the ship done. Hey, 92. Yeah, we're also giving away a Gladius. I'll put this in the link here as well. For you guys on YouTube. Yep. There's that link. We're giving away Gladius all this month. Make sure you guys sign up for that. All you got to be doing is following on Twitch and subscribed on YouTube. Those are the only two things you need to do, and you can enter to win. So, those of you guys who are watching this on YouTube, you already have that ability. You probably already are subscribed. And if you're watching this on Twitch, you probably already followed. Just do both of the opposites and you're good to go. Oh. I was going to talk about more aliens. We've talked about the Vanduul. We've talked about the Banur a little bit. We've talked about the Jian, the Tavaran. We haven't talked about the Tavaran yet. Fun fact. There is... it's almost universally believed that there is at least one Tavaran on every ship in the fleet. It's rare to not find a Tavaran in active military service on a ship in the Navy. The fact that we haven't seen one on the Stanton means that it's very rare. The Stanton is very rare in that sense. Yeah, pretty much that's what I was saying earlier, Aaron, was like the idea of having data running just be a... Thank you for... Thanks for watching. Electronic warfare ship. The only e-warfare ship that we have, it's dedicated e-warfare, is the Sentinel. There are other ships that can do e-warfare. I believe the Herald is also supposed to be able to do e-warfare. And I want to say the Terrapin can also do it. But the only ship that is dedicated e-war is the Vanguard Sentinel. No, but we know they drink. We know the spirits. Tavaran Ghosts is made in Elysium. The old Tavaran city. It's a Tavaran moonshine. There is Jian. What is it? It's a Jian vodka, I think. The Banur make their own Scotch, I believe. But yeah, Aaron, you're right. That's what I was saying earlier, was that do it like cargo running's done now, where you just have a physical thing. And the easiest part about that is that we already have chips that you can buy and carry with you. So all you got to do is have slots in those machines that are supposed to be data cores. Just make them kind of like server blades. We just take the server blade and you stick it in the ship and then lock it in, and then you just do that by hand, and then you've got your stuff. And then when you get to the point, you pull them out and you go deposit them where they need to go. Because that's all it is. It's just cargo running. It's just cargo running with data. You've seen that on Microtech, where you have to kind of go in and steal stuff. We already have hacking tools, so something like that could work. I'm also a big fan of the idea of adapting the hacking tools for ships. So all ships have a slot that's kind of like an auxiliary slot for data transfer that will also be used for, you put in your little hacking tool, and then you can hack the ship, and then you get control of the ship. Like a timer with a bunch of like the current hacking system that works. But yeah, we don't have a ton of lore on. What we do know about the recreational drinking by other species is their booze, which we have in game. And likely they seem to drink the same kind of stuff we do. The only difference is I think the Jian and the Banur have some foods and possibly some drinks which are deadly to humans. Hack permissions of the ship. Exactly. We talked about that on a captain's table a while back. You have a satellite mission on Hurston. You have those blades that you pulled out. Take your own vehicle from Microtech Airport, actual city. I'll be interesting to see if they have a parking lot for your vehicles and how that's going to work. Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. I remember when the Herald was asymmetrical and sexy, which is the reason why I'm fairly certain that the Corsair will not be asymmetrical. I feel like they'll go with the X design or just two big fucking wings. It'll probably end up being like that. because it either doesn't work right or because they've kept trying to throw asymmetrical stuff in, and Chris keeps being like, nope, change it. It doesn't look good. And honestly, the Corsair's body looks great, but the wings are just like, what? I'd like it if they made the wing the big wing half the size it is, and then doubled it up like an X-wing, where you have the two X's coming out. That would look pretty cool. The transitionalist candidate, because she's the one that has the least fucked up ideas. I gotta put that Galactic Historian out. I have it written, I just have to record it and edit it. New profile on all the candidates. I mean, it already is a combat variant. I mean, I don't like it because it looks lopsided. It looks like the ship is going to tip to the right too much. I wouldn't mind it if they did it like a vertical design, where like the ship's front was here, and then you had like two wings at the bottom and a big ass like tail essentially on the back, or reversed, where you have two small things pop out in the top and one kind of big thing on the bottom. That kind of asymmetrical look I think looks great because it looks more like it's moving. But the side stuff looks a little weird. I like the Corsair. It's one of my favorite ships. It'll be interesting to see for the hull Type B, whether they give you the ability to hull other ships with the swappable modules, or if that's going to be a Caterpillar thing. Yeah, they actually talked about the swappable modules with hulling ships with the hull. That's something they've done. But you remember that they are inventing what's called a cage system they're using. So they're swapping out the cargo bays for the cargo containers for just cages. You'll be able to haul like, not with a B, but probably like an E and up, like M50s. They'll be in storage, so you won't be able to like use them for quick assaults. Like you'll have to, like someone will have to be in it, and someone else will have to be outside of it, and then kind of opening up the cage, and then they'll have to activate the ship and fly out and fly away, kind of thing. Yes, vertical design ships is the Jian style, so it's more fits with Misc. Hull carrier confirmed. Pocket carrier, baby. That's not even mentioning the Hercules. The Hercules can hold ships too. So you got the Jupiter. The Jupiter, which is one of the early ships from Crusader. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in game as well. It's also a dedicated shuttle carrier, so it's designed to carry large, like a medium or small to medium ships. Medium, maybe. I would assume that it's medium, but or it could at least be like have a big cargo bay or big hangar bay that holds nothing but like Pisces style ships. With the side design, yeah. What's the latest lore that you're really interested in? How does it affect us? I mean, I'm really interested in that damn signal that came in game. The mystery signal that was scrambled, you can only get pieces of it. That was cool as fuck. But yeah, I like the idea of the Jupiter as a ferry ship. They're going to need a ship that operates as a ferry, because in some cases it'll just be too expensive and too slow to travel on your own if you need to meet up with someone. So the idea of having a ship that you can fly into a ferry and then just hang out in the ship while it travels, much faster than your typical ships would make sense. Yeah, the hull B is about the same size as the Freelancer too. They're about the same length. Maybe, I think the Holbe's a little bit longer when it's extended, but it's somewhere between the Freelancer and the Connie is the size of the Holbe, but it holds fuck tons of cargo. Likely that 750 is going to be reduced because everything else has been reduced. If you look at this, the 1,000 cargo, SEU cargo rating of the Carrack in comparison, because now it only has like 400, even if it only holds half of that, half of 750 is like 350, 400, which is still insane. That's still like 3 times of a max. Be interesting to see if they make NPC ship moving services for people who pay mostly so. Oh, 100% they will. They will 100% have NPC moving ship moving services. I don't even doubt it. It'll just be a timer thing though. Not airports. They're gonna have spaceports. They probably won't have aircraft for a while in the game. Yeah, which is about half of what the original title was supposed to be for the Carrack. So let me do some math. I say I'm a teacher, and everyone's like, aren't you a teacher? Shouldn't you do math? It's like, I'm not a math teacher. History teacher. Well, social studies, but 375. To give some perspective on that, let me look up the Connie. $96. No way does it have 96. Yeah, 96. Connie Andromeda only has 96. Jesus Christ. And maybe the Matrix of Lies is wrong. I'll have to look it up. The constellation Taurus is supposed to have there is no reference anymore. They've removed the references for this for the amount of cargo it can hold. Yeah, goddamn. I think the constellation Taurus was up there, but I mean, by the way, the Freelancer doesn't have 100 SCU. The Freelancer has 60 something SCU, and the Freelancer Max has 120 SCU, something around that. So the Max holds more than the Andromeda. The Taurus holds more than the Andromeda as well, than the Max also. But even at half the 750 SCU, even if they half that with the whole B, you're still looking at over 300 SCU, which is 3 times Connie's. That's 3 Connie's worth of cargo for something that's the size of smaller than a Connie. So. Star Runner is somewhere in that. Yeah, it's like 80 to 90 SCU. It's about the same cargo capacity as an Andromeda. Yeah, I mean, the hull series is a dedicated hauler, though. It's a space truck. It's all it does is carry or space cargo vessel, like a cargo, like the big cargo ships we have today. Both have 36, yeah. It's 122, I think is what it is, and yeah, everyone's saying 66 is the other one. I own a Max, so I know that it's that. I've done a lot of trading on all the different medium ships, because I know like it's like 46 or something like that for the or 42 or 44 for the Cutlass Black. It's 12 for the red, probably 12 for the blue, and then it's if it had anything into the blue, and the Freelancer standard is 66. People are saying it's 36 for the Nis and the Dur, and the Max is like 122. 120 in game. Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't brought up source system lore in my regular class for kids. I stick with real life lore. Oh yeah, the whole series is going to go up in price because the current, like a whole B, which again, factoring in for maybe halving the entire cargo load, is still 300 cargo units, and at the current meta of trading being the biggest one, that is, in terms of price, the B costs $60. No, it's like $100 because the A, which holds, I think 60 something SCU, like 100 SCU. Let me look up the whole series real quick. The whole A holds 48 cargo units, and it's about the same size as it's a small ship. It's about the same size as a Aurora or a Hornet. It holds 48. The whole B holds nope. It doesn't hold 700. The whole B holds 384 SCU, and that sounds about right for the whole B, considering the other ships. It might, even at halving that, you're still looking at that's like even halving that would be 192 SCU. So that's still a huge amount of SCU for a ship that costs $90. By Brock Cup size, A, B, C, D, and E. Where's my whole J then? For starter ships, I mean, if you're just starting out, if you know you want to be a hauler and you just want to skip the bullshit and you want to get straight to hauling, the whole A is a fantastic ship for $60. Yeah. For a low price point at the moment, yeah. Yeah, it also may have the cargo pods, like the Starfighter may be also be able to hold the cargo pods from the hulls because of its sheer size. And they're made by the same manufacturer, Misc. Was the next sale? We don't know. Someone came in earlier and said that the Vulture was on sale. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, I think the whole B and the whole C are going to be the most common variants, but the whole series of ships is the most common variant of ship in the galaxy when it comes to the Star Citizen universe. Because again, it's not just a human thing. The Jian also use the whole series as their main means of transporting goods. So it's the most common thing in 2 entire civilizations, which are the biggest civilizations that we know of. Where I buy that. I mean, if you want to be a space trucker, it is good, and it is pretty much going to be a solo ship. The B is really good for that. It's going to be like most Misc ships, which is solo-able, but better with multiple people. Because the whole B has it only requires 1 crew. I don't even think it has a I don't even think it has a turret. It has like 2 guns that the pilot can use. The whole C is a 2 to 4 man crew. The whole D is a 1 to 5 man crew, so probably 2 to 5 man crew. And the whole E is like a 10 man crew, 1 to 5. They can all be done by 1 to 5 people. That's a freelancer level of transportation for incredible amounts of cargo. Just for reference, the Hull E, which was $550, can hold, according to the current data, which may be and probably is wrong, 98,304 SCU, almost 100,000 units of cargo. You are not going to be filling up a Hull E full of laranite. It would cost more money than has ever been made in Star Citizen combined. I would say yes. See it in game, maybe at the end of the year, because you got to remember that the pyro bodies, even though there's got a lot of planetary bodies, they're all dead. There's no real life on them, and so they're equivalent of just big moons. They don't even have landing zones or really outposts. And we know that CIG made the moons of Microtech in 2 weeks. Two guys made the 2 moons of Microtech in 2 weeks. So give each of them 2 planets with that same kind of those same kind of like tools. They could probably do it in a couple months. King of the scrap run, yeah. That's a lot of space potatoes. I like to call them space potatoes because that's the only damn thing you can be hauling with that thing is food. Food that's super cheap that you can dump anywhere. Probably the most profitable run for a Hull E will be from Bremen to Terra. Haul them big bennies. Hey, Trouble, how you doing, buddy? Question, are the Carrick pods supposed to be open to both sides of the caterpillar? No, Sid Vicious. They're supposed to be dropped. So you can drop them, and I think if you look at them, they have exits on them. They may not have them yet, but the idea is that they're able to be dropped and then like drop down onto a planet and then recovered if they need to be. You can haul rubber dog shit out of Kong Kong. Orbital food bombardment. The whole series passed the BR divisible by 64. Even though the smaller ones are 96, yeah. So I think they probably did some calculations wrong. So I think you're likely looking at 64. And if that's the 64 is the answer, then you're dealing with 4 64 times, so it's 64 times 4. $256 for a B. That's half of a fucking caterpillar for a ship that's about. Let's see, the caterpillar's like $200 something, so it's half the price. What do you think the coolest ship in the verse is, and why is it the Mercury Star Runner? The coolest ship in the verse is the Karthik, the Jian Scout. But it's the most worthless ship in the verse too. The Mercury Star Runner is cool as fuck, though. I have one, so Pioneer's pretty cool. Though. Do you think we'll get a straight to Flyable 3.9? Possibly. I mean, they're trying to hunt down. They've all but confirmed that they're hunting down, trying to kill the desync right now. Leaving the witness. It was 1/3 the price for half the cargo volume. That's insanity. What ship has the best lore behind it? Probably the one that has the most lore, which is the Gladius. Though next to the Gladius, the Nautilus is pretty big too. The Gladius is probably got the coolest lore. I did an entire video on it. Let me look at my Gladius video. It's old now, but it came out like last year, I think. One of the first new versions. Like I changed the. It was the last old versions. The last old versions of the game. Dark Corp. It came out on March 17th, 2019, so it's over a year old now. But it was a 6-minute long episode just on the Gladius. And I didn't even fully cover it. I mostly glossed over a lot of the details. And then the Nautilus, which I did as well. They say more, you don't always need more, but the Nautilus, I did right when it came out around August, and it is 8 minutes long. Those two ships they've got some extensive lore behind them. That's something probably a long ways down the road. I can imagine them inventing something like hover cars and hover transports that use like fans to fly around, with assisted of some like jets, because you're going to want something that can work on planets but can work on various different planets that don't always have the same atmosphere. That I'd like to know more of. Bremen is probably the biggest one that I want to know more of, because Bremen is the little bits of lore that we do know about Bremen. Bremen's been used it's kind of like a secret testing facility. It's the home of Consolidated Outlands. It's the home of Big Benny's and Terra Mills, which is the company that makes Pips and Big Benny's. It's also the home of the Bremen Defense Force, which is the best militia in the goddamn galaxy. So it's this big agricultural-based community that's slowly being turned into a technological-based community. It's going from ag to tech, and with the head of like Crusader Industries. And other than that, we just don't know a lot. Like, how the fuck did they find it? Like, where are the old farming facilities? Yeah. The Artemis has the most interesting lore, but can we buy that one? You're not going to ever buy an Artemis. The Artemis was built with as a one-off ship to colonize another world without using a jump point, because this is before they discovered jump points. They just used quantum drives. The problem was it would take hundreds of years for them to reach their target, so they put them in cryogenic sleep. Oh yeah, I think that non-space vehicles are very much not a priority. That's mostly flavor, and they want to add flavor, but they need to get a lot of the details, or a lot of the main chunks in first before they add the details in. Shipyards and Crusader are going to be pretty cool. What ship company would you say is your favorite in terms of lore? Crusader. Crusader has the best lore for ships, in terms of ship company. It's crazy insane, but awesome. Aegis is pretty bland, but they've got a lot of cool ships that have a lot of lore. Anvil has some pretty cool lore behind it. And Drake is simple and it's cool. Every ship that Drake makes is just a Cutlass. Different variants of the Cutlass. Because that's how they founded. They were founded to try to sell the Cutlass. RSI's got some pretty cool lore, but RSI's got some pretty cool lore because RSI isn't just a ship manufacturer. They make fuck tons of other shit too. But I definitely say Crusader. Crusader is the coolest lore because it's founded by a rebel who goes on to try his hand at politics, fails utterly at that, so he founds a business to make the most money. And what he does is buys another company that already exists, changes it to Crusader, helps modify things, and then he handpicks his successor, who was the one who was the leader of the team that developed the Genesis Starliner, and then moved her into CEO ship, and she was the one who bought Crusader itself, the planet. Orphan Rebel, yeah. He watched his parents explode. He watched his parents not explode. He watched his parents get killed, get murdered in front of him. He lived on the fucking streets for much of his young life. When he was just like 10, he was literally homeless, taking care of his dad, who was slowly dying because of a coup that took place between the Mezers. That dude had some messed up history, and you kind of understand how he works, though. He's kind of a brilliant, kind of a genius. Oh yeah, we have tons of stuff on Aegis in RSI. I've touched on it, a lot of it. The Avenger, you know what? The Avenger doesn't have a ton of lore. It has a lot of lore in terms of its, there's some good background for it, but I could probably do an entire episode of the Avenger in about 4 minutes. It's really not a lot to say about the Avenger. It's cool, but there needs to be more fleshed out about how the Avenger was developed, what was it developed for. I mean, we know what it was developed for, but like that process, because we actually have that process for the Gladius and for the Nautilus. Yeah, Crusader's got some pretty wholesome lore. They're pretty wholesome. They're definitely not shitty. If they're the closest thing to like neutral good of a company that exists. Yep, they actually bought the organization practically. They're the #1 donor to Angeli's Angels. I wouldn't be surprised if 3.9 drop brings new ship sale. Oh, 100%. There's been a lot of drought. We haven't had a new concept ship sold in, at this point, 6 months, which is unusual for Star Citizen. Yeah, it might be. I mean, the CEO retired, and it's probably dead by now. But he's definitely retired from the limelight, and his hand-picked successor is currently leading Crusader. But all this lore available. I'm surprised how much there's actually, because it's hard to come by in the game, and obvious, understandable reasons. Yeah, most of it's on the website. They do in-universe lore posts, and there's a couple of guides out there for languages. Most of it's on the website. Some of it's in-game. No, not really. Most of the lore for Hesperia is just that they're a company that is dedicated to recreating alien vehicles for the human market. I mean, I'm kind of glad they're backing off the concept ships, because I think a lot of people made good points of being like, I'd rather them finish the concept ships they already have than sell us more, because it's a constant never eating a rubberus where the snake eats its own tail. You're never going to catch up if you keep selling more and more. And they've slowed down on it. So I'd be okay with them only selling like 3 concept ships this year. And if most of those concept ships are straight to flyable, you know. Out of water. Do some more points for y'all. Boop. Thank you for watching Galactic Historian Office Hours. Means a lot to you guys coming and hanging out. Yeah, there's like, people tend to like the lore on the ships and the ship companies. People like ships in Star Citizen. Fun fact about the whole series, though, the whole series, A's and B's, are actually used to station to orbit ferries. So they're actually used to fly down to a planet, pick up stuff, and then fly back up to, because you can actually land with the spindles extended with the A's and B's. Oh, thank you, my friend. Stay safe in Bordeaux. $4 trillion a month. That's the thing. It's like CIG is making fuck tons of money, and they're not selling any concept ships, which is unusual, because the people are like, oh, they're selling more ships. This is bad. That's the only reason why they're making money is selling concept ships. But they're making record-breaking profits and they're not selling concept ships. Do you think that they will be adding buyable ships to Teach's or maybe Area 18? Oh, they already added more. I'm sure they will. What's my favorite type of lore? Historical events. I wonder why. Totally not a history teacher. The historical events are my favorite type of lore. So the Jumptown Wars, the Tavaran Wars, the rise of the Mezzers, the Mezzers themselves, the fall of the Mezzers, the Synth World Project. One of my favorite lore pieces that I want to know more about is Project Farstar. We know a little bit about it. We know that it was Orion was discovered by Project Farstar. We also know that Terra was discovered by Project Farstar. Terra is the crowning achievement of Project Farstar, which was a government-sponsored exploration initiative where you could get grants from the government to go explore various jump points, look for that kind of stuff. Kind of. Asperia is a company that reverse engineers stuff, and so they do work with the military to reverse engineer things, but they also sell to the civilian market. The best was the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, pretty much. Do I foresee Star Citizen player corporations being allowed to design and build their own and sell their own ships in game? No. That's one of the things that CIG is probably going to keep a lock on. You'll definitely be able to build components for ships and like guns and missiles. I think you'll be able to get essentially blueprints, the rights to build those and sell them on your own as any manufacturer. You won't be able to design your own stuff, though. I don't think that's going to happen. You might be able to tweak stuff, though. So you might be able to get the permission to build neutron repeaters, but you also add your own little twist to it so that you make it slightly better, like slightly faster firing. So it overheats faster, but you can get more rounds down range. And then you could sell that as a unique variant. Be like, hey, this is the X-Corp neutron repeater, you know. Yep, Asperia was the first company to crack Vanduul technology, but they were also the first company to crack Tavaran technology. Prowler is a Asperia ship. Yep. I'd love to see some animatics, or you've seen like the animations that were done, like kind of like if you remember BattleTech and a lot of other games like that, where they did like images that they moved the camera around on it. I don't know what it's called. It's not stop motion. It's more like, I don't know what that is, but that style of animations would be pretty cool for telling the stories of the Tavaran Wars, the rise of the Mezzers, and so on and so forth. What is the lore on how they control/found wormholes to other systems? So there is the first one in human history that was discovered was one that was by Neptune's moon of Neso. Ships kept disappearing near Neso, and it was called the Neso Triangle in reference to the Bermuda Triangle because ships just kept disappearing without a trace. No wreckage found, nothing. And so a engineer and scientist and test pilot by the name of Nick Croshaw showed up at this region with a team. And with that team, he studied the region to figure out and studied the ships to discover what was going on, the ships that missed. So he was able to gather audio logs and stuff like that. And what he discovered was that every ship's quantum drive had the same irregularity, had our same or similar irregularities with them. And so what he ended up thinking was that this irregularity was causing their disappearance. So they mimicked the irregularity and discovered that it opened up a wormhole that was naturally occurring near Neso. So he developed kind of a modification to a quantum drive and then stuck it into an experimental ship called the X11. No, the X1. I can't remember what it is. The X4, the X8. I'll look it up. But it's essentially the Aurora, where the Aurora comes from. It's like an experimental version of the progenitor to the Aurora. And he flew it through the jump point, mapped the region, gave some basic sensor data, and flew it back. So they named the system that he found the Croshaw system, which is the first system that humanity ever discovered. It wasn't the Zeus, it was the X1. The Zeus actually was developed later, after that. Misc Croshaw. I can't remember the name of it, but it was an experimental ship. I'd have to look it up. Ooh, I know what I can look up. The Aurora. It was on the Aurora. The X7. The Aurora is a modern-day descendant of the Roberts Space Industries X7 spacecraft, which tested the very first jump engines. It's called the X7. How much later? The Zeus was built. So the Roberts Space Industries X7 was discovered in. So the jump point was discovered in 2271. The Zeus was developed in 2140. So it was actually before, but it was the first quantum, the first. Yeah, it was before. They didn't use the Zeus. The Zeus would have been over 100 years old at that point. So the history behind it was in 2251, the Zeus prototype was built by RSI's Astro Development Team to address terraforming division's efforts to transport resources to Mars. They streamlined the quantum drive enough to make it commercially viable. And there was the first ever commercial ship. So it was the first ever ship sold to private individuals and not just wealthy billionaires. Crusader would win. Crusader has the ships. Does streamer have Argo Mole? Please give tour. I do, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'll show it off. Come back tomorrow. And I'll show you then. Yep, first commercial ship with the quantum drive. Thank you. Do you think there'll be a drive that can travel between systems without wormholes? Possibly. I mean, there is a lore piece of a crazy dude who's trying to develop FTL without jump points. Could we ever see some of the older ships updated to playable state? Yeah, probably. That's something they'll do to like flesh out the world later. Yeah, but it doesn't have the ships. Crusader literally builds ships in Crusader. Hey, Workhorse. Do I think Crusader Industries, I don't know, CIG will make fan-made submissions for official lore, shorts, stories, backfill, voiceovers, etc. Such a passionate town community, I'm guessing, because legal. Yeah, no, probably not because of legal. Well, it's more than legal. It's about ownership is the biggest issue. Because the lore guys work for Cloud Imperium, so anything they come up with is not their intellectual property. It's intellectual property of CIG, though I'm sure that they give some rights to the writers for their novella, which is supposed to be coming out at some point. They worked on that. They probably will get some of the proceeds from the sales, but the lore is not their intellectual property. It was the intellectual property of CIG. If I made a short story or a profile of, say, a famous person, a person in lore that I think would be cool to add into lore, one of the things I've always wanted to do is I wanted CIG to make a Tavaran advocacy agent, the first ever Tavaran advocacy agent, and have him be the best advocacy agent they've ever had. Like more arrests, has a reputation for being a badass, all sorts of things, which is based off I base it off an actual real life historical figure who was called the Black Badge because he was the first black U.S. Marshal and is widely considered to be the best law enforcement officer in the United States history. He just had insane numbers of arrests. He was feared by much of his contemporaries. There was literally stories about outlaws murdering, like there's a guy who murdered his wife and then ran out into the woods to hide, and he had a dream that the marshal was coming to get him, and he turned himself in because of the dream. It's like, I don't want that guy coming after me. I'm just gonna turn myself in. So I want stories like that. I want like a Tavaran advocacy agent who is so badass, who took on like an entire gang of criminals by himself and killed all but two, and took those ones in for processing. I want a Judge Dredd of Star Citizen. But yeah, I don't think that'll happen because a lot of that is a lot of CIG's lore and stuff like that is less focused on telling stories and setting up for players to tell those stories for CIG. They're frameworks. I thought the point of upgrading ships was to bring them in line with the current mechanics and look of Star Citizen. Yeah. But he's talking when they talk about whoever was talking about. It's one time. But that's just something that I wanted to do because I thought it would be cool. That's not actual lore. Don't go around talking about it. I don't know. That's just a suggestion I've made. But the reason why he's talking about older ship models is he's talking about like the Zeus, which is an ancient model that was built 900 years ago in Star Citizen lore. But a lot of people are like, I like the design. I'd like to see an older version of that. But heard from Paul, yeah, because I'm don't board gamer me. I'm not a fucking source of official CIG information. What Galactic Historian's designed to do is to tell you a little bit about the lore. But I wouldn't take it as gospel. I've gotten stuff wrong before. Ooh, we're at 6 retweets. 4 more retweets and I'll give you guys 10 more beers. Demo call, can we? Yeah, we can. Will. Damn it, Paul. We can will space whales into the game. We can make it. We can make your badass Jian. Did I say Jian? I meant Tavaran. But a Jian advocacy agent would be cool as fuck too. Star Wars / Trek 2.0. I think a lot of people would be interested in it. I mean, you got to really understand the lore, understand the background to start telling stories. And there's a lot of variations in stories and the kind of the lore that's important. I don't know if I fucked up or not. We've talked about a lot of alien species tonight, so I might have slipped out. We're gonna have lore in game where we have Nox or some other node that we have to discover NPCs discover in game, just like other MMOs, instead of reading lore from the web. Yeah. That's the idea, at least, I hope. There'll definitely be like there's a archive called the Ark, which is supposed to have a lot of information. I actually did a whole video about how I think that the story of Star Citizen, the lore stories of Star Citizen, will start this year once Crusader is fully done. And by done, I mean once Orison becomes available and Crusader the Planet is landable. Oh. The best cocktail will be the Meyer Meyerson. However I can make that. 10 retweets? Are we already at that? 12 retweets. Holy shit. All right. Everyone gets 10 beers. There you go. I'll have to see how the cocktails are made. If I can make my own or not. Lore? I mean, there's lots of lore. There's lots of, like, there's definitely going to be space medics. I think there's an interstellar organization that's dedicated to medical evacuations, similar to the Red Cross, and rescues. Yeah, you're definitely getting stories. I mean, likely what you're going to see is that most of the big picture lore will be in Squadron 42, and there will be big events in Star Citizen which will meet there. I'm pretty sure that I'm like 100% sure, honestly, that the message we heard at Port Olisar back in November, the garbled message, is the entry gateway to the first major lore event, which will kind of tell the story and kind of sort of set up an event that will have rippling effects throughout the lore based off how the players handle it. Cool. DMO Star Citizen, yeah. Yeah. The Xenothreat invasion is likely what it is, based off of leaks that have been brought out, and based off of what we already know. They've already kind of set up a lot of that stuff in lore. Special Agent Rowena Dooley has been mentioned in lore posts because she activated the Civilian Defense Force, the CDF. The Civilian Defense Force is an advocacy program that reports directly to the advocacy, but basically allows mercenaries and bounty hunters to take jobs directly from the advocacy in cases of emergency. And because crime has run rampant in Stanton, because it hasn't been dealt with, the CDF has been activated, and the Xenothreat are going to be directly competing against the CDF. We know that for sure. I don't want to spoil too much of it, because I've heard a lot of the leaks myself. So, I know a lot of the story, but I don't want to spoil it for people. I want people to experience it. I think they can pull it off. The question isn't can they pull it off. The question is, will it be fun? Because you're probably going to have the dynamic situation creating events that CIG has to put into lore. They probably have a little bit of both, but I mean, I think that's likely what's going to happen. And a good example of that is Jumptown. Jumptown happened because players dynamically went there because of the money. And the events created great content, but it also created a lot of buzz and a lot of details that CIG just said, let's fucking canonize this shit. Fits in our whole like story about how Stanton is under-policed and needs more police forces. So. Exactly, Guns and Glue. Per lore, there will be some military planets where you can't be able to go. Unless you have the right reputation, yes. MacArthur is a big one. There's a couple other ones that are like military training stations. So the only way you'll be able to go there if you have the right reputation or if you have authorization. Heard anything to prevent people from sitting at the end of the jump point and shooting everything that comes out? Nope. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I'm like, oh, people are just going to murder people when they come out. I think because not all jump points will be set like that. They'll be, those have gates. Especially in rural systems and systems that aren't really developed, they won't have gates. They'll just have jump points. So you'll have to activate it yourself, which may cost a little bit more jump fuel. And then where you come out may be randomized, where you exit rather than set. But the jump gates themselves are set because they're more designed to be policed on both ends. Then Pyro used to be a settled system, and then it descended into chaos. So. Do you think they'll invent a inverse newscast? Yeah, possibly. We'll see. They'll definitely have some tickers or something like that. I don't think we're going to see a Vanduul raid in Stanton. Stanton's too far inside human space for it to be attacked by Vanduul. Much more likely it's going to deal with local rebels or outlaws. It does. Which is the reason why they abandoned it. But originally, it had a lot of rich minerals that they wanted to gather. And they wanted to terraform some of the planets. Because there are other places where people were born and lived in unstable systems. But it just wasn't economically viable. So they built the station, and they did all this stuff before, and then they found out that it just wasn't worth the effort. So they abandoned it. And then outlaws took over. Okay, so what I hope to happen is the whole Xeno threat invasion causes it to be a major conflict point, so people won't want to spawn in there because there's constant raids towards it, so it'll be dangerous to be there, but people who want to fight will be there. And I hope essentially what happens, at least in lore, is the station is damaged beyond repair and is left to drift and burn up, and then the next patch they bring in a new station, or they don't have Polar All-Star, and you have to, and there will be missions for you to bring resources to Orison to build Polar All-Star. They'll have some sort of scaffolding where you can go and drop off resources and then leave. That would be my hope. What I actually think is going to happen is they're just going to replace it. It'll be there one day, and then they'll change it with a brand new All-Star the next, which is one of the new stations. The only reason why I know they're going to replace All-Star is because it's old, it takes up a lot of resources, and it doesn't fit with the aesthetics that they already have going with the other stations. So they want to make it more in line with the other stations. Oh, yeah. Most likely is Vega. Another attack on Vega. But the Vanduul like to raid a lot, so you might see incursions which are very small rather than large ones. I guarantee you, the second the Vanduul show up and players know that there's a Vanduul attack in progress, everyone is running to there because they're like, free money, free money, free money, free money. I hope so too, but I don't think CIG is prepared to piss people off. Because if they did that, a lot of people like me would be like, yes, CIG, this is what I wanted. And a lot of other people would be like, this is too early for story. We need the gameplay to work. I can't even get into my ship without it exploding, which is like, okay. Thought you wanted the game, not a series of tests, and they're trying to add that in a little bit, so. But it's going to happen, so. Are we going to see a more colorful universe? For sure. We've already seen some in the trailers and stuff like that. Some of the for the Carrack. So, but the planets of the Stanton system are not very colorful intentionally. They're not supposed to be. They're corporate gray. There'll be other places that are more colorful. Is Stanton sterile, or they'll be adding kid NPCs? They probably won't be adding kid NPCs, just because with an open universe like Star Citizen, you will have probably have the ability to shoot the NPC passerbys eventually, or just harm them. And having kids that you can shoot would turn the game into an NC-17 rating, or possibly get banned from places like Australia. So the reason why there's no kid NPCs is not because they don't want to do it or don't have the means to do it. It's just there's probably thinking about ratings and legalities. So they want to be able to sell this in everywhere they can. And that adds complications to ratings. Later, Chris is going to... Do I think there'll be organizations waging warfare for land once the game is out? Yes, I think there will be some places which will have super rare resources which are highly valuable, and organizations will fight over those regions because they can make just so much money over controlling it. What's the lore behind Titan Suits? We don't have any lore behind Titan Suits. We don't know why, what they're built for, or how they're built, or anything like that. You need to shut down and go for a nap? Probably. But I'm good. Probably need to end up pretty soon. Oh yeah, that was the station above Lear 3 is not actually a station. That was just a placeholder. They put it there because they wanted to. Lear C3 doesn't have a station, likely. I'd love to see some of that stuff. Like gas nebulas? Oh yeah. Yeah. They've showed off a lot of the nebulas tech in the past. But it's just not in the game yet. Like Pyro. Pyro is red. It's inside a nebula. It's huge. It's just burning red. And you used to be able to see Pyro from Stanton. It was this big red blob nebula in the distance. I was there and witnessed it. Yeah, Al, that's exactly what my point is. I think adding lore in game and adding lore events in game before the game releases will encourage participation in the development of the game. And that's what CIG needs. They need people playing, because that's how you test. And if you don't like how it turns out, or if it just turns into a big fucking mess, you can just errata it and say that never happened in lore. It's still an alpha. But if you like it, you can keep it in lore. See Jumptown. We'll go for a little bit longer tonight because I want to keep you entertained while you're all stuck inside going absolutely mad. We'll go a little bit longer. Oh, P42, I did not see you rating, and let me guess, Loken also resubscribed. Thank you. But I want to get out of my ship without blowing up and doing 30Ks. Jeez, give game faster. Loken, shut up. Love you, man. Can we get a follow command for Loken, by the way? Let's see, I'll do a bunch of stuff here because I realized that I haven't been paying attention to follows or anything like that. I feel like an asshole. So, P42, thanks so much for that raid. And a bunch of other follows. So let's go with straight 50. 50 points for everybody. PC gamers everywhere. Still, situation normal. Listen, I'm an extrovert, but I've played PC games for most of my life. I am slowly going mad. Not because I need other people. I just need to be out of the room. It's in game right now. I don't know if the version that you're supposed to get for free is in game, but the orc armor is in game right now. The medium armor, the medium marine armor, or the medium armor that's the green military armor, you can find in a lot of places. Do I foresee jump gates malfunctioning and sending ships to random parallel universes? It's going to send it to the alternate universe where the Empire is actually the Federation of Planets. I'm just trying to say that Star Citizen is the Star Trek mirror universe. Nah, probably not. A random jump, such as jumping in the middle of Wolf 359 battle and the player having to jump back in Star Citizen universe in order to survive? No. Though that would be cool. I'm looking forward to people jumping into the middle of battles. The Empire did nothing wrong. How was your stream there, Loken? We don't have goatees yet. That's true. Trying to wake you up to be this simulation. It's still possible, though. Yes. Going good. Yeah. I've been enjoying the discussion. We've been talking about the various lore behind the alien races. This is how I started this off. And we've been talking about some other stuff. Hey, Kemi, how you doing, buddy? I could see, like, one of the things I think they could easily develop to prevent gate camping would be to have multiple exits even from gates. So if you know the proper exits, you can take some or if you take alternate exits, like alternate routes inside the jump tunnels, like, oh, I'm going to go left instead of right, because I know right will take me to the exit. If you go left, you'll jump out in the system, but instead of jumping out in the system, you'll jump out somewhere random in the system. So it could take you anywhere. Which means that you have a risk of ending up at the wrong side of the system, but you also have the advantage of not allowing people to just camp the gates and let you kind of take it over. Well, it's something they talked about in the past. Now, Kemi, you were the one who dressed up as a Jian during the 2018 CitizenCon, right? Randomized bubble around the exit when you exit. Yeah. I do teach, yes. Or do what Eve does and make people invisible so they can't be shot for the first 30. I mean, that's a good, like, game mechanic, but I think if you're going to try to, like, immersion into lore, the whole randomization thing works, because they already have various exit points for the tunnels. No, I just look like one. Someone who, I forgot who I was talking to, who actually dressed up and cosplayed as Jian. You wore the green suit. Okay, yeah. I remember. I just trying to remember who that was. He's badass. Dude put in some work, yeah. He even knew the language a little bit. Oof. Page was bluish green, yeah. Kemi, thanks for the raid, man. Let me do some follow commands for Kemi. Follow. Follow P2, P42. Silk. In AEL. There we go. And exclamation point follow at Loken. You know, that's a good theory that 3.9 is being polished not just because of the desync, but the desync issue is preventing iCache from functioning properly. That could be a thing as well. You still good for tomorrow, Loken? I'm gonna ask people again for about the Pulsar game tomorrow. Basically, we're not going anywhere. That's true physically too. You think it's the implementation of the new iCache that's causing desync problems? Ah, that'd be interesting as well. They definitely need to get the desync issues fixed in order to get Pulsar. So on Wednesdays, I play a game called Pulsar: The Lost Colony, which is a multi-crew ship simulation game, very much in the vein of like Star Trek, but it's its own universe. It's still technically in beta, but you can buy it on Steam. Pulsar: The Lost Colony is a fantastic semi-procedurally generated universe. It's up to, I think, 5 players. Navigator, captain, science, weapons, and engineering. So, yeah, 5. 5-player crew. You can even like beam over and capture enemy ships or destroy them. You've got away missions where you go down on the ground and fight them and do fighting stuff, ship-to-ship combat. Took the servers down for PTU. Do you think it's just going to be a surprise, like 3.9's released? By the way, we have iCache in. So not only is there no more server wiping, you put that Chris Roberts is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain? So he can place a cup on the top of the mountain. And then come back four generations later to see that cup still there. No, that one is not D&D style. It is a video game. The Star Trek one that I was doing was actually a Star Trek licensed RPG called Star Trek Adventures. Yeah, Pulsar: The Lost Colony. We do that on Wednesdays around the same time. Usually we're ending about this a little earlier than this time. Usually at 11 p.m. Eastern, p.m. Pacific. We might. Why didn't Tricking cross the road? Well, to see if his cup is still there, of course. I think that can make sense. Do some of the back work, some of the code rework already for 4.0. They already did a lot of that for the LTP, for the long-term persistence stuff. That would be the quickest turnaround because they released LTP in like a 3.8 patch. So then coming out with iCache in 4.0 would be just 2 patches, which is pretty quick. There's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of stuff. But I mean, they did a pretty good job of converting information just to like basic code. Like I think it was like a hex code or something like that they used for dating. There was something like maybe procedural damage or something like that. There was something that they did to convert to lower the cost of storing information. So it was like, I'm sure they did something similar where they're just like converting all the information to a specific code that can be redrawn at any time. They can save information like budget. Once iCache is in, it leaves it open. Once iCache is in and the NPCs get a little bit better, and hopefully performance improves for servers, then we'll have Tony Z will be open to just do what the fuck he wants. They did. I don't believe it still. Because, and it's going to hurt. The longer it takes for them to wipe, it's going to hurt people a lot more. But they also said that they are going to wipe when the economy comes online. So when Tony Z's procedural generation dynamic economy, when that comes online, they'll probably see a wipe. That's definitely going to get over. They need to wipe. But I thought when he said, like, wiping is they're done with wiping, I thought he meant like they're done with wiping between patches. So between 3.8 and 3.9 there'd be no patch, but 3.9 there'd be a wipe. But they're not wiping with 3.9, so. I think that's what Chris Roberts said, something to the effect of some kind of static server meshing sometime. He also said it might be at the end of this year, sometime early next year, and then the dynamic would happen sometime after that. I think they need to get at least static server meshing in for Squadron 42 to make some significant headway, or to get better. But they may also not need, because they're not dealing with numbers of players, they're just dealing with numbers of entities. And OCS is the big thing with that. Sure they will. iCache is interesting. With only 50 players per server and you get bumped into a new server next time you log in, does your stuff appear on the mountain in the new server with the only... Yeah, that's the key. That's the issue with iCache, is more of, if you don't have server meshing, how does that work? Because what if 50 people all drop that cup on that same mountain and then leave? Is it just persistent no matter what servers? Are you going to be able to see the server there and just see a cup? Like if someone's in a different server in the same place and they just drop the cup, will it just appear on your screen? That's an interesting fact. Without the server meshing working, that'd be kind of weird. And that's what we already have. We already have what's called long-term persistence for HABs and ships. Ships already function beyond between wipes, and so does your character. All the stuff you purchase for your character. And same with money. Money still persists between wipes. So without server meshing, I don't see why iCache needs to happen so much. Now, it may be that they are able to cull things a lot faster. That the reason why they have iCache is so that they can aggressively cull shit. And so they can cull all the information that the server doesn't need with SSOCS, but it can be saved in an iCache form, so they don't have to go back and the server doesn't have to reload everything so quickly. Could be a performance issue for iCache. I don't know. We already have bind culling. Bind culling and OCS and SOCS are already in game. Toilet paper. Well, no. That's what it is. With long-term, with iCache, if that server goes down, when it gets restarted, that cup will remain there on that server. I think that's the key. So it'll depend on what server you're in. So because it's randomly, you don't have no idea what server you're in. It'll just persist between server wipes, or server closings. I think that's what the iCache will do initially. So basically nothing for players at least. because I already thought that they already did that wipe with SOCS, but I guess it basically is maybe one of the reasons for the 30Ks is that essentially the servers just build up a bunch of junk that they can't process and eventually crashes because it just runs out of memory. So iCache should basically allow servers to stay up indefinitely. My mission is to be able to put a cup on the same mountain on every server I'm on. This is Mount Aaron. Mount Coffee Cup. Well, not just your data. I think it's for the server's data as well. So, like, just going through this, my mind. So, essentially, what may be happening right now, because I remember they talked about this in the past, is that essentially what they're doing is the server is up and it's running, but as more and more entities are spawning and more information is building up, the server is just running out of memory. And that's why the lag gets worse and worse. The server tick goes down and down and down and gets worse and worse and worse until it runs out of memory and just crashes. And then it gets to get reset, and then everything gets reset to 0. But with iCache, the idea is that it's able to, when the server goes down, it can save the state and then come back with that server still in place. So offloading the memory so it's no longer need to be stored so quickly. So essentially it will improve performance, server performance, because the server doesn't have to load all of that information. It's taking that information and saving it off-site in a less memory-intensive file and then putting it back into the game when it needs to be. I think that's the advantage of iCache being before server meshing, because eventually the purpose is, as Chris Roberts said, you take a coffee cup, you put it in a forest, you fly away for 4 weeks and come back to that planet, that coffee cup should still be there. iCache is your personal items? I thought it was server items. Because the personal items, again, LTP already exists. Lewd nudes across the verse. So I don't see, other than having it for the reason for server meshing, I don't see the purpose of having iCache really mattering for 4.0. It seems like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. There's at least one black hole, the Tamsa system. There's definitely anomalies like asteroids and nebulas and such. Yeah, and space weather as well as weather on the ground. Yeah, but there's there's millions of containers in Star Citizen right now, even in terms of the current where we are now. Like Lorville may have 4 dozen containers inside of it, and then they're all inside the container of Lorville, which is itself inside the container of Hurston, which is itself inside the container of Stanton. So basically having iCache is also the inventory thing. So you won't be able to pull shit out of midair. You need to have iCache to be able to say, oh, I've got this gun in this ship somewhere else, and it saves that state permanently, even if you don't log out. Or iCache. I think the iCache stands for inventory cache, but they've abbreviated it to iCache because it's funny. Guess what? Yeah, exactly. So the idea of like what you can currently do is you can currently take off your suit and put it back on. And when you put your suit back on, all of your bullets are refreshed. So you have all your ammo back. Oh yeah, it's 100% necessary for salvage. It essentially sets up a system for the server to do a save state. I think the first version is going to be for, as what people are saying, for personal inventory save slots statuses, and then later it'll do save states of the entire server. So a wreck that persists in an area and then will stay there forever, or stay there for as long as they need it to until it degrades, even between server crashes or server resets. Cash. Magazine's empty. Reset my account. Problem about resetting your account is you start with nothing. You lose all your money too. If I need to take a shower and fly across the system, no NPC will serve me at a bar unless it was the Astro Pub. If I can tell you're stinky, I'm gonna make you take a fucking shower. Kemi. I would still tell you to take a shower, yes. If there's any way of me going virtually, yeah. Yeah, Greg, it's weird. I know that it's not perfect right now. It was just implemented the last patch, maybe the last two patches or something like that. So it's essentially a stopgap for people who have issues. Sometimes you have to do multiple resets to get it to work right, and sometimes it never works. That's why they have the help desk that might be able to help you out. VoIP will tell it all. Have they had any example of the shipware, etc. in game yet? We discussed last year. Is it an eventual goal to be like Animal Crossing, where if you haven't logged in for 6 months, your ships will be filled with cobwebs? No. The wear state is more of when you use it, it wears. They already have it in game for the longer you use items, the more chances they are to fail unless you fix them up. It's also hyper right now, so like if you get into a lot of combat and like your engines start malfunctioning, then they'll start surging or cutting out randomly. It's so random that sometimes it can happen. It's an RNG, it can happen for whatever reason. And the wear states, they already have the like brand new to absolutely broken states. They had those built a while ago. They just haven't put them in the game yet. A ship duplication bug. Even after Siege reset my account, I still have extra ships. We have persistence already, yeah. Smell over IP. Smoip confirmed. No more dupes, yeah. Yes, I have had that happen to me. The flat spin of the Freelancer. Freelancer is king of flat spin. What's the best way to start out to learn the lore created for Star Citizen? Watch my videos. I'll link something for you. But the best way to do so, if you don't want to watch my videos, would be going to the website, or not the website, going to the website and going to the first lore posts. I don't know, like, there's no easy way of finding them, but they're dated from like the very, like 2075 on, and they're usually linked so you can kind of go from one to the other. That gives you a good rundown. But there is one video series that I created for players interested in learning about lore called A Citizen's Guide to Lore. About 10 minutes long. It gives a good kind of recap. Here we go. I'm gonna put this in Twitch as well. That's a good one place to go. We know PvP bounties will be in 3.9. Oh God, Falcos, have you not seen the shitstorm that caught out about that? Let me give you the rundown of what the PvP bounties in 3.9 is. Nothing. It was a fuck up ad by their part, because all it is just basically small changes to improve the gameplay of current PvP bounties. There's no changes to it whatsoever. Ikura. How do you think easier emote method will change player interaction? A lot more people will emote. People will be a lot more cool with emoting really quickly. Thank you, Vanilla. Well, thank you for watching, Vanilla. But yeah, I did a video series. I think they're both about a total of 20 minutes. It would take you. Where it breaks down the timeline of Star Citizen, and the second one is a generic guide to the systems, the planets of the Stanton system, and the mission givers on those systems. I still think that video that I posted has 5,000 views. It is one of the most helpful introduction series, I think, to lore. If you're interested in going more into lore, that is a good start. Watch that. It's short enough that you can watch it and kind of get most of the ideas. And if you're intrigued, there are some offshoots. You can start looking up for some of those things, some of those details. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Benji's pretty cool, yeah. Damn, yeah. I don't know why that does that. Because the freelancer does stick the back thing sticks a little bit too much. From the toilet. Yeah. So, Grog, here's the thing. When you're doing that, the other Freelancer Maxes still exist. And those Freelancer Maxes still have all the upgrades you would have had on that Max. I don't know why they do it or how they do it, but they still do it. When you first take off with the ship, it always tips up forward first, really high, and then the back releases. For all of them, the base Freelancer, the Misc, the Dur, and the Max, they all do that. What did you wish me for? I don't get it. Hence the whoosh. I've had her pitch up on me. A lot. Fat Booty Max. Yeah. For the big booty. For the small price to pay for the thickness. Question, which is the best space beer? Bear? You mean beer or bear? Because the best space beer is obviously Liberty Lake. Fuck schmaltz. But other than that, yeah, probably other than that, space bear. Bear. Space bear. The repair bear is the best space bear. Fight me. All right, guys. Black Bear Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. What? 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 Confusing. I worked in a town called Liberty Lake. I created an issue for it, and people complained. Can't take a joke. For a Whammer burger, I could too. That looks pretty good. All that genetically enhanced meat. All right, guys. The tardigrade is a cool space bear, yes. I am going to call it a night. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. If you guys did watch this, you did enjoy this, please hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube's, please hit that subscribe and like, hit the little bell icon. Comment, discuss down below. I always like to hear more of the discussions about stuff like stuff we talk about. The next Galactic Historian video should be out soon. I might release the election primer guide before the next Galactic Historian, the Jumptown Wars, because it's a little easier. But I'll be working on both for the coming week. Try to release it. Love your faces, guys. Have a good night, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So come on in and hang out. We'll be playing some Pulsar, The Lost Colony. And after that, we'll be doing Captain's Table. Not Captain's Table, fuck me. We'll be doing Star Citizen. We'll be doing some more Star Citizen. But we'll see. There's a couple of big things coming up. I got into the Wild West RP server for Red Dead Redemption, so I might be doing that in the near future. And there's a certain game we've played before called I want to say the right name because I don't screw it up, because I always screw up this name in my head. Project Genesis. Game we played a while ago called Project Genesis. We might be playing it again here real soon. Cool stuff coming out. So, I'll leave you with that, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Stay safe. Like I say every time, hope to see you guys again soon. But if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. Later.